Okay, who are you and what do you do and where can we find you on the web?
I'm Andrew Haeg. I'm the editor of the Public Insight Network and a co-founder of it. And I'm on the web at Andrew Haeg at Twitter, or at Andrew Haeg on Twitter, and andrewhaeg.wordpress.com. Yes.
And Public Insight Network has been around for how long now?
7 years, since January of 2003.
So what interests me and what I want to ask you about is 7 years in web terms is like a long time. What has changed during those 7 years that has been a benefit or has hurt Public Insight Network?
Well, I think oddly we were ahead of our time. I mean, we started at a time when a lot of newsrooms really hadn't started thinking through how to engage their audience, and it really felt like we were pioneers, and part of being a pioneer is that you run into a lot of rough, uncharted territory, and you got to kind of hack your way through it. And I feel like 7 years later, the world is either we've caught up with the world's caught up with us, and I feel like when we talk to newsrooms now, they totally get it. It's no longer a really foreign concept, and people's understanding of what the possibilities are for engaging people online is totally apparent. And we still rely heavily on email, and I think that's one really interesting thing about what we do is that we use this very simple, kind of web terms, archaic way of reaching people. But the thing about it is it's ubiquitous, and as Clay Shirky says, when things become technologically boring, they become socially interesting. And the ubiquity of email, I think, allows us to get in front of people who don't have social media profiles, who aren't present, who aren't bloggers, who aren't tweeters, who aren't don't have a Facebook profile. But we get in front of them with really relevant questions via email, and they respond to us, and it works quite well. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I think we've hit this inflection point probably the last 6 months or so where I think there's just incredible potential for this approach to engaging an audience around news coverage, and that we have a huge amount of potential in front of us. I mean, I think it's kind of limitless. So.
And is there anything that is sort of on your radar that that you want to steer public network journalism towards, or is it sort of what do you see as the future, the next 7 years?
There's a lot of conversation going on right now about the future of context and how the stories as we produce them now are don't get at the full breadth of the context behind that story, but yet all that information is online and you can connect it in different ways. So I think one of the next kind of frontiers for us is finding a way to plug in this model to help create kind of that evolving, never-ending story, so that a story goes live. You think of the story 1.0, and there's so many holes in it, so many missing pieces of information, a lot of context is missing. So how do you use this network to identify those gaps in the questions that has to be answered, and then get that back out to this network of people who know what they're talking about and have relevant experience, and then get all that information back in, and to create this story that evolves and grows and changes over time, but that becomes fuller and more comprehensive. So I think that's one big area. I think another big area for us is creating a network that individual journalists can start to tap into. Right now we're very focused on news organizations and creating something that can be implemented at a news organization. But there's so many, and especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, so many journalists have left news organizations either by their own choice or because they were forced to. But they still want to do great work. They still want to do journalism. So what can we create for that whole community of tens of thousands of solo journalists out there that allows them to have the benefit of this incredible network of sources and insight? And I think that's a really interesting challenge for us.
Cool. Thank you very much.
No problem.